Once upon a time, nestled between rolling hills and a winding river, lay a quaint little town. It was a place where life moved at the pace of the flowing water, undisturbed and serene. Dominating one end of this town was an old stone bridge that had silently witnessed generations come and go. The locals had long given it a unique name, the Bridge of Whispers. They say secrets were carried across the river on the wind, making it a place where one could pour out their heart without fear of being heard. One crisp autumn evening, as the sky blazed with hues of orange and purple, a young woman named Alara found herself standing on the Bridge of Whispers. The cool wind played with her long flowing hair, carrying with it the scent of fallen leaves and distant bonfires. The river gurgled below, its melody blending with the rustling leaves overhead. Alara leaned on the weathered stone balustrade, her eyes gazing into the water's depths. Her mind was a turmoil of thoughts, her heart heavy with unspoken fears and dreams. With a deep breath, she closed her eyes and whispered into the twilight, pouring out her fears and dreams into the vast unknown. She spoke of her worries, her anxieties, and of her aspiration that seemed as fragile as the falling leaves. And when she finished, she stood there for a moment, listening intently for any reply. But the only response was the sound of the wind and the flowing water. Feeling foolish, she opened her eyes and turned to leave. But as she did, she noticed a figure standing at the other end of the bridge. A young man. As she watched, he slowly started to walk towards her. His features were strong, his steps measured, and his gaze was intense. Curiosity battled with shyness within her, and she couldn't help but steal glances at him as he approached. The man stopped a few steps away from her, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, the man cleared his throat and asked, "May I?" gesturing to the space beside her. Alara hesitated for a moment before stepping aside, allowing him to take the spot beside her. As the minutes passed, they sat in comfortable silence, each lost in their thoughts. Then the man spoke, his voice a low rumble. "I couldn't help but overhear your conversation with the river. You spoke of fear and dreams. If it's all right with you, I would like to share mine." Alara turned to him, taken aback by his suddenness. Yet something in his voice, a blend of gentleness and sincerity, compelled her to agree. And so began an exchange of stories under the cloak of twilight. Alara learned that the young man's name was Kieran, and he was a traveler who roamed from town to town, seeking inspiration for his art. Kieran, in turn, listened patiently as Alara shared her dreams, aspiration that seemed to dance on the edge of her voice. As they talked, the bridge seemed to come alive, its ancient stones echoing with their laughter and whispers. The setting sun cast long shadows around them, painting the scene with a golden hue. When they finally parted ways, promising to meet again, the sky was filled with the twinkling of stars. Each evening thereafter, they returned to the Bridge of Whispers. Alara would come with a basket of fresh bread and cheese, while Kieran often brought wine and fruit. They would sit for hours, talking about everything and nothing, sharing dreams, fears, and stories. Their friendship deepened, and soon their evenings were filled with stolen glances and shy smiles. The weight of their unspoken feelings grew, and eventually it found expression in words under the cover of darkness. They confessed their love for one another, sealing it with a kiss under the watchful eyes of the stars. Their love blossomed on the Bridge of Whispers, nurtured by whispered promises and stolen kisses. Days turned into weeks, and their bond only grew stronger. They explored hidden paths in the nearby hills and shared intimate moments in secluded meadows. But as the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. One day, Alara received a letter that shattered the tranquility of their world. Her father's failing health forced her to leave town and join him abroad. On their last evening together, as the sun dipped below the horizon, they sat on the Bridge of Whispers, their usual spot. Tears glistened in Alara's eyes, her hands tightly clasped in Kieran's. "I have to leave tomorrow," she whispered, her voice catching in her throat. Kieran understood the gravity of the situation. He knew he couldn't hold her back, but that didn't make it any less painful. "I know," he replied, his voice rough with emotion. "And I won't stop you. Your family needs you." Alara nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. In a moment of inspiration or perhaps desperation, Alara took a red ribbon from her hair and tied it securely to the bridge railing. "Whenever you miss me," she said, her voice trembling, "look for this ribbon. It'll remind you of our love and our promises." Kieran looked at the ribbon, then back at Alara. He knew she was right, that her family needed her. Still, a part of him wished she wouldn't go. With a deep breath, he reached out and cupped her face in his hands. "I will wait for you," he promised, his eyes locking onto hers. "No matter how many seasons pass, I will wait." Alara leaned into his touch, her tears falling freely now. "I promise I'll be back," she whispered. And with that, their final goodbye was sealed. Kieran stood by the bridge every evening, watching the sunset paint the sky with hues of orange and purple. The seasons changed, the leaves turned, and winter's icy grip tightened around the town, yet he waited patiently. Each evening, he would run his fingers along the weathered stone balustrade, hoping to feel Alara's presence in the wind's gentle caress. The red ribbon fluttered in the wind, a constant reminder of his unwavering love and the promise of her return. The townspeople, touched by his devotion, would often bring him food and drink, sharing stories and keeping him company during the long nights. Years turned into a decade, and the ribbon faded from crimson to a somber gray. Yet Kieran's hope never waned. He continued to guard their love on the Bridge of Whispers, refusing to let it die. One spring morning, as the cherry blossoms rained down on the town, casting a pink haze over the landscape, Kieran stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the river. The air was sweet with the scent of blooming flowers, and the sound of birdsong filled the air. Suddenly, he saw a familiar figure emerging from the town. Alara, her hair now streaked with silver, yet her eyes still held the same sparkle. She walked towards him, a new red ribbon in her hand, a mirror image of the one she had tied years ago. A wide smile broke out on Kieran's face as he watched her approach. Time, which had been so cruel in taking away Alara, now seemed to rewind, bringing her back into his life. The years of waiting, the loneliness, and ache in his heart suddenly seemed worth it. When Alara reached him, she took both of his hands in hers, her touch sending shivers down his spine. Through tears and smiles, they recounted the years that had passed, their voices echoing with joy and disbelief. The sight of the ribbon fluttering in the breeze, now fresh and vibrant, was a testament to their enduring love and the promise that had brought Alara back to Kieran's arms. As they stood there on the Bridge of Whispers, the townspeople emerged from their homes and gathered around them. The sight of the reunited lovers brought tears to many eyes, and cheers echoed through the square. That day, the Bridge of Whispers bore witness to a love that had endured a decade of separation. Kieran and Alara, hand in hand, walked into the town, ready to start their lives anew, their love story becoming a local legend, a tale whispered on the wind, carried across the river to remind everyone of the power of love and the magic of second chances. From that day forward, the townspeople referred to the bridge as the Bridge of Eternal Love, a symbol of the unwavering bond between Kieran and Alara. The faded ribbon was carefully preserved, becoming a cherished relic of their enduring love. Kieran and Alara's love story became a local legend, a tale as timeless as the bridge itself, reminding everyone who heard it that true love always finds a way home.